Hey, Southern Nevada, let's talk about your tap water. Despite its hard mineral-forward taste, your water meets safety standards and keeps you healthy. Sourced from the Rocky Mountains, it's tested 300,000 times, ensuring your tap water meets or surpasses the highest quality standards. Hey, I grew up on the stuff and I turned out all right. You've got a lot on your plate. SNWA is taking care of what's in your glass. Learn simple ways to enhance the taste at snwa.com. SNWA is a not-for-profit water agency. Well, this week we've seen protests and tear gas and general uncertainty about where things are going next, all of which makes the news of our city so important to track. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm joined by John Langeler, morning anchor at Channel 8 News, and my co-host Sarah Lohman for the Friday News Roundup, where we're taking a trip involving 3 cities. First, is Las Vegas a sanctuary city? Governing officials seem to disagree. Then, let's look at the sinking city around Windsor Park in North Las Vegas. And finally, the Emerald City of Oz gets a vivid and pricey revival at the one and only Las Vegas Sphere. It's Friday, June 13th. Woo! I'm Dayvid Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Did you like my woo, everybody?
Ooh, Friday the 13th.
Spooky day. Yeah. Hey, John. Hey, Sarah. Welcome to the Friday News Roundup.
Hi, David.
Greetings and
Hi, John.
salutations.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
I'll make sure. Yeah, it's good to be alive on Friday the 13th, whatever may happen. So we were doing the hot ledge line because the legislature was in session, but now that that's done, we're going to go back to the hot headline.
Hot headline.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
If you were in downtown Las Vegas on Wednesday night, one of the many scheduled protests about kind of many things that are happening in our country, you probably started out just marching and chanting and doing all the things that we as Americans have a right to do. By about 9:30 on Wednesday night, apparently the police had enough of what they saw. They claimed that there was illegal activity, and they declared that everyone needs to disperse. And if you don't disperse, you can get arrested, and a number of people were detained. And we do know that tear gas canisters or something emitting some manner of foul substance were deployed by the police in trying to get the crowds under control, et cetera. Again, a lot of chaos harkening back to, the peaceful protests of 2020. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Sarah, John?
Peaceful protest is a constitutional right that we've been seeing infringed upon more and more and more. We are allowed to gather. We are allowed to express our dissatisfaction with the government. And I see these protests being broken up violently on the flimsiest of excuses. So I'm pretty upset about it this morning.
John?
Well, I think that I spoke with the reporter that we had down at the scene when they got back early Thursday morning from being there Wednesday night. They spoke with a restaurant owner along Fremont Street in that neighborhood who, Fremont East, actually had those less lethal rounds fired in their direction. They actually held one of the projectiles up for our cameras to show what had been fired to sort of disperse the crowd. They didn't really know there was a protest going on. They were just kind of worried about what was happening to the staff that was just working. We've seen these protests happen downtown before. David, as you mentioned, the George Floyd protests 5 years ago went right through where I used to live downtown. I would imagine there's probably going to be some more of these protests taking place, not only here, but we've seen what happened in Los Angeles as well and elsewhere around the country. So we'll see what happens. The goal usually of law enforcement is to keep crowds moving because the longer they're in one place, the greater chance in their mind there is that trouble could develop. That's their tactic, and we'll see what happens moving forward.
So tear gas and rubber bullets, that's pretty upsetting. And I think it's worth mentioning that tomorrow is No King's Day. It's the sort of anti-protest to Trump's birthday military parade. So definitely it's going to be a troubling weekend here in Las Vegas.
I mean, potentially, this is kind of the issue, and we've seen it every time there is a protest, where the police do have, under Nevada law, a very broad authorization to just declare that it's over and that the space where people have to leave, it's almost like a issuing curfew from the police. It says everyone in this area has to leave now because we observe some illegal activity. And, frankly, nobody wants to see illegal activity, especially if it's in any way violent. But it's always a almost statistically insignificant amount of the crowd engaging in anything that would be troublesome or worrisome. But, when any of it happens, then the police go, okay, well, you've protested enough, basically. You now all have to leave or face arrest. So that's tough.
I believe the phrase that was used was unlawful assembly as the of the, pardon the phrase, trigger for getting the crowd dispersed. And that's when we saw it happen. I think, Dayvid, you would probably agree. We've seen worse in regards to protesters and police in downtown over years. This didn't seem as unpleasant, but still, obviously, the images were pretty startling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in 2020, we did see military type tanks and what they call kettling, or moving all the protesters to one area where then they're told to disperse, and if they don't do it fast enough, risk detainment, arrest, or getting shot with a rubber bullet. I understand it's less likely that you'll be killed, but it can seriously do damage to you, as can inhalation of whatever gases they're using. It's bad news. Anyway, well, that leads in really well. I think a lot of the protests were involved with mass deportation, and recently there was some controversy on whether or not Las Vegas was a sanctuary city. John, can you explain that?
Yeah, so recently, U.S. Homeland Security designated the city of Las Vegas as a sanctuary for undocumented immigrants, and by doing that, that could potentially jeopardize federal funds from the Trump administration. The RJ reports, and 8 News Now has reported as well, city officials at the city of Las Vegas don't really know why the city was on that Homeland Security list of sanctuary cities. Now, at the same time, Metro Police has signed an agreement to collaborate with ICE at the Clark County Detention Center on warrants, which kind of formalizes what has already been in place to some extent down there. We spoke with Sheriff Kevin McMahill here at 8 News Now about undocumented criminals. He told us, and I'm quoting here, "I don't want them in my community anymore." We've also talked with Sheriff McMahill when the Trump administration started, and he said that Metro won't go out on raids and help ICE do these enforcement actions in the community. But obviously, if someone is under arrest and is at the detention center, then Metro Police and other local law enforcement will provide information that ICE has. I think this paperwork essentially gives them 2 extra weeks to make that connection with federal officials. Department of Homeland Security listed Las Vegas as a sanctuary jurisdiction, but again, there's no city, there's no Metro Police policy on the matter. And again, Sheriff McMahill and Las Vegas Mayor Shelley Berkeley have said otherwise. And if you look for the list now, it's not online.
Oh, yeah, they took the whole list down. I think a lot of cities complained around the country that they didn't know what the criteria was for that. But I just got to ask, why do you think that the city of Las Vegas reacted to the label of sanctuary city with such alarm? I mean, Vegas made a big deal out of it, and they put the response on social media and the rest.
The impression I'm getting is there's a federal funding aspect of this, of course. That's something that the city doesn't want to lose. That I think that is why a lot of jurisdictions sometimes take these actions, is they don't want to sort of have that bear get poked. I wonder also if there's an element of, because Las Vegas is so diverse and has a large immigrant population here, they don't want to have the spotlight more put on the city, on broadly Clark County. I think that might have something to do with it, but we're still waiting to get a little more from city officials on that.
Yeah, I saw the social media post, and it was really strange to see it. Why on Instagram? Why such a specific response saying we're not a sanctuary city? The whole situation seemed weird. On one hand, am I being paranoid in that there's a part of me that wonders if the Trump administration didn't release this list to strong-arm cities that weren't totally complying with them into doing so. And now, of course, we have Metro assisting ICE, which they were not doing before this mini scandal. The other thing is, when that post popped off my Instagram feed, I'm not on Twitter. I don't know if it was on Twitter. But I went into the comments, which I don't recommend to anybody.
Never go to the comments.
Go into the comments.
Always go to the comments, yeah.
But you know what? I was actually surprised. Yes, there were a few people who would just comment MAGA. There was one person who said that this Las Vegas was mob run and the mob would have never let this happen. And I don't know what this is. I guess getting overrun with immigrants, which is ironic since the mob was full of Italian and Jewish immigrants. But the vast majority of commenters were actually people saying to the city of Las Vegas and Shelley Berkeley, why are you doing this? This is landing you on the wrong side of history. Why are you complying? We would love it if we were a sanctuary city. Immigrants make this city run. We do have undocumented immigrants that deserve our protection. The response, at least from this limited social media crowd, was upset that the city of Las Vegas was so blatantly complying and didn't want to be a sanctuary city. And it seemed that they felt that this was going against what Vegas should really represent.
I don't even really know what that term means, sanctuary city, because it's not like someone can't get arrested anywhere for, being undocumented, period. It is interesting why Las Vegas did wind up on that list. Like, what metric put us on their radar, other than the fact that maybe just because so many immigrants do live here, that's enough? I mean, that seems pretty, I don't want to say racist, but like not fair. I mean, should Vegas be a sanctuary city? I mean, are there good arguments that funding be damned? We should figure out a way to protect people from ICE raids?
Let's be honest, David. This also could have just been an administrative error on the Trump admin. Like, we're given the benefit of the doubt for being smart and organized, and maybe they're just not. You know what I mean? This could have been a total mistake. But then it's the city of Las Vegas's like big reaction to it that I think people were like taken aback by. And
because we are a mostly blue city in a state that's purplish.
And if I can use the term, maybe I can't. Maybe it's going to get cut out. It felt a little kiss ass to the Trump administration. And I think that we were hoping to see a mayor that was acting a little stronger. Should we be a sanctuary city? As you said, what does that even mean? There's no like legal definition of what that is. I think it's more of a good faith thing to say, like, we're going to protect our immigrant residents. And we believe that immigration is a part of the American life. Therefore, we're going to participate in supporting the people that make our city tick. So it would be nice to see that declaration, especially because there's no like legal meaning to it. So like, what is it really hurting except maybe making our federal administration mad at you? It would be nice to see our city step up to help the people that literally make our tourism business tick, right? We were most heavily affected by these sanctions.
I think I would also just step in broadly beyond the sanctuary city discussion, because, again, the list was ultimately taken down by Homeland Security. Getting back to the motivation of the protests that we saw in Las Vegas Wednesday night, and then we've seen in Los Angeles and elsewhere since then, the question of whether we'll see not only more of these protests, but these raids. I saw some reports from some meatpacking companies in Nebraska. We saw what happened in Los Angeles. If that kind of a raid by ICE could happen on that scale, and that public display here at, Resort X on the Strip.
Yeah.
I believe that there's an effort because Las Vegas runs so much on immigrant work and the population, and it's such a vital part of our economy, not wanting to be on that radar. I wonder if that enters into the conversation somehow.
It's an interesting point, but I mean, it could be said that tourism is already down because of a looming recession. So if ICE is coming and now raiding hotels that then can't function without their staff, and the tourists here are seeing people getting dragged out of their hotels, I mean, the whole thing is horrific. It's being done with such violence and carelessness, especially for children. And the stats just came out that Trump actually managed to deport less people in February than Biden did the previous year. So they can't even do this. It's either more about the show and the terror,
the optics, the theater
of it, right?
Yeah.
Or they think this is the way to do it, and they're not even good at being bad.
Well, when an administration deports so many people kind of under the radar, you don't get these reactions. And it does seem like maybe this administration is seeking these reactions for whatever ends, which doesn't always bode well here. We also saw the governor of Nevada, who, isn't necessarily a Trump loyalist, but there are issues, veto a bill which would have simply required ICE to present warrants, like legal warrants, before they went into schools to investigate kids, you know? And the governor vetoed it, saying it was well-intentioned, but it could be confusing. And the sponsor's response to that, Cecilia Gonzalez, the assemblywoman, was like, read the statute. It makes everything more clear. I don't know what you're doing, Lombardo. It was very interesting that this moment of immigrants in our city, which does indeed have a lot of immigrants, most of whom are hardworking, even tax-paying people, are under fire. It makes things a lot more unsettling than it probably should.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
All right, let's move on to our next story. It may not be as big as a city, but a pretty big development is sinking in North Las Vegas. Sarah, tell us about that.
Yeah, are you all ready for some good news? I have some feel-good news. Strap in.
That we're sinking? Oh, no.
No.
There's a lifeboat.
So here's the thing. Windsor Park is the neighborhood we're talking about. It was built in the 1960s. It was built in the first place over geological faults. Not an awesome plan. It surprised no one. It was built as affordable housing in a traditional Black community. And it immediately started sinking. Almost immediately. Well, I'll give them that. Almost immediately started sinking because of the fault movements. And also because our entire city is sinking because of the groundwater we're pumping out of our aquifers. That's the bad news. The good news is that everyone who is left still in that development is now getting a new home. And this is publicly funded. So the good news to me is we've got politicians fighting for something positive that was effective. So the North Las Vegas City Planning Commission has unanimously approved a redevelopment plan. And the residents of Windsor Park will be relocated. This is from reporting from the LVRJ and KTNV. So this was headed up by State Senator Dina Neal. She's a Democrat from North Las Vegas. She introduced the bill first in 2023 that financed a project allowing the Windsor Park homeowners to exchange their houses for newly built ones nearby. And I mean, it's been known that the conditions in Windsor Park have been awful, that these houses are literally collapsing. The walls are crooked and cracking. They've had issues with their utilities for the same reasons, too.
Yeah.
So this is basically the final step of the plan in that the Nevada Housing Division has awarded a contract to a not-for-profit housing developer to redevelop nearby land into a new housing district for the remaining residents of Windsor Park. This was approved by the city's planning commission, so it is going to move forward. People are getting new homes. It's a really, really great thing. There's going to be 93 new homes built, and finally they can get out of this neighborhood that some people have been stuck in for decades. The whole project should be completed by December 2026. And again, this is publicly funded and honestly kind of seems like a deal. There is some federal funds coming through that have to be used by September, too. So the project is very much on its way as of the vote Wednesday night.
So a couple of things here. And Dayvid, as you know, this has been an ongoing thing with Windsor Park for a long time to try and help the poor folks who live there. And as satisfying as it is that this is finally moving forward, it's been delayed so many times that this was approved in the last session. There was another discussion about it in this past session to try and get it by a little more time to get all of this ironed out. And it was and it didn't pass. So that kind of really instigated this week's meeting at North Las Vegas to get this signed, sealed, delivered, get things moving. But, you know, you look at the challenge of some of these neighborhoods in Las Vegas, whether they're North Las Vegas, some of the older low-income communities that are really in bad shape. It takes a long time to get people who've been there forever and have established themselves in that community for a long, long time to move, to find them someplace else to go, to fix the damage that's already been done. As much of a relief as it is for the folks who live there, it's really been a long slog to get Windsor Park
Yes.
sorted out. And I think if you talk to most people up there, as glad as they are this is moving forward, I think a lot of folks are really not thrilled that it's taken so long.
I think that, of course, I think a lot of us understand, like, why don't you just move? Like, these people bought these homes and obviously could only sell them at a loss. So to me, it makes a lot of sense that the government is stepping in for what was, I don't know the original history. I don't know how much deniability is there, but what seemed like a bad faith housing development in the first place. But more importantly, what I really love about this new plan is that the land that's been bought and will be redeveloped is literally minutes away. So they're not leaving the greater neighborhood and they're not leaving their community, since the whole community is essentially going to be allowed to move there wholesale. And I think that we often dismiss how important to happiness and survival your neighborhood and your community can be. So this has been done slowly, but with such thought and care. It really gives me hope. It's just how people should be treated when something goes wrong.
What I'm thinking the opposite of thought and care is how a lot of developments came up in Las Vegas for decades. That these sort of environmental impact studies that are now fairly commonplace, especially when you're talking about federal lands, et cetera, aren't being or weren't being done for so long. And a lot of things are being built in places in Las Vegas that maybe shouldn't have been built there. I'm thinking about the Three Kids mine in Henderson, which is now ripe for new development, and all the issues that a lot of environmentalists and stuff pointed out. But, development being so important for all these cities for whatever economic, theory they're ascribing to, seem to overlook it. So I guess it comes to the question, what is the responsibility of a city to residents whose homes are built on things like sinking land or, environmentally dangerous areas? Is it the city's fault, the developer's fault, or the people who buy without doing due diligence?
Well, I would also suggest that, obviously Windsor Park dates back many, many decades, and times have changed since then. And you're talking about, for example, Three Kids Mine. A lot of that land down in Henderson in the south part of the valley was mined for years and years, and they cap it. And you can say what you will about that. But when Windsor Park was built, it was a long, long time ago. I don't, whether the fault lines and the sinkholes and all of that, I'm not sure how much we knew about that at the time. In the reporting that we've done on Windsor Park, it's the frustration of how long it's taken to get to this point, considering how long it's been a problem.
What is the point of a government if it's not there to take care of its people? Right? I'm not a small
strong.
government person.
That's a full stop right there, Sarah.
Right? Like,
you like that?
Whether it's our city, our county, our state, or our federal government, why am I voting for these people if it's not to be looking out for us as human beings, looking out for us as a community, uniting us as a community? So I do think that it took a long time, but I am so glad that the city is stepping in with public funds to right a wrong. And it does raise questions, and we're in this time of massive expansion, of really, really quick expansion, right? And there's so much talk about building affordable housing. So what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to be built on land that maybe isn't appropriate for housing? Does it mean it's going to be built cheaply and it's going to be falling apart within a couple years? So should there be more laws and more inspections, governing how we take care, in some cases, of the most vulnerable among us? Everyone deserves a safe, affordable home.
Yeah, no, definitely before and after. I think the pushback to that, Sarah, is like, there's only so much resource and we have to prioritize where we spend the public funds that we have. And, maybe fixing a thing that a developer recklessly did or that the city didn't catch 50 years ago is a drain on those limited resources when we have immediate problems.
That seems like exactly what the priority should be for those resources.
Well, that's the question.
I will say, moving forward, one thing that Windsor Park, and that's in North Las Vegas, of course, but even in the city of Las Vegas itself, that you're seeing is a lot of these older affordable housing complexes are being knocked down and new ones, bigger ones, nicer ones are being built. You look at the historic West Side, you look at Marble Manor, which is now being knocked
Renovated,
down,
yeah.
renovated, and it's not that far away. The old golf course, Desert Pines, I think it is being knocked down, and they're going to build repurposed. Yeah. So there's a business component to this. There are incentives for developers to build low-income housing now that's motivating some of this development to get Windsor Park, Marble Manor, all these other places to have more affordable homes for people in Southern Nevada. It's just taken a while maybe to get to this point.
Well, lessons abound. So hopefully all the municipalities in our community will take heed to do things the thoughtful and the right way.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
All right, let's move on to the last subject, and this is kind of fun. This is from reporting everywhere because you can't miss it, but also specifically the Hollywood Reporter was very excited to let us know that the Sphere is going to be screening a supersized and AI-enhanced version of the classic film Wizard of Oz. I can't even imagine what that's going to look like inside there.
I was going to ask, did they specify any of the AI special effects that are happening?
I don't think it matters. I mean, one thing that you could
big?
say a lot about the Sphere, it's going to F with your brain cells on just how intensive the experience is going to be, especially with a familiar favorite like The Wizard of Oz. But I also want to point out the promotional campaign for the screening of this film is remarkable. You've got these giant Wicked Witch feet with the ruby slippers, 50 feet long, 22 feet high, coming out of the Sphere. Cool. You've got the storm cloud on the exosphere, I guess, of the Sphere, and the familiar image of Kansas and Oz. I mean, come on. It's kind of remarkable. The tornado showing up on the outside is beyond belief.
Why The Wizard of Oz? Is there any indication of why this movie?
I think it's such a vivid film and it's such a favorite. It's a classic and beloved film, right? And so I think it has a built-in audience, but it's going to be three figures to go see it. I mean, the cheap seats are like about $114 per seat to go watch this classic.
Oh my God, I saw $138.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Depends on where you sit.
Love The Wizard of Oz to pay that much money. Are there people? It's not there's like Disney adults. Are there Wizard of Oz adults?
I think
people would want to see it. I think Wizard of Oz lends itself to a lot of visual components that would make it very interesting. I don't know if you guys have been to the Sphere before. I went and saw the movie the first night, and it is mind expanding. I'll tell you that for free. And I'm just hoping they play Dark Side of the Moon, the beginning, at the beginning of Wizard of Oz, see if it syncs up, so I can relive my college days.
Yes.
They are not going to do that. They are also not encouraging you to sneak your bongs in, John.
I don't have any.
Seen. As we saw with somebody who did that for a Grateful Dead show, which was like totally, spot on.
I went there for Anima. The whole place smelled like weed. So I think they're starting to look it over a little bit. I'm curious too, because I did see Anima there, but my understanding is most of the animations have been built for the Sphere. So it's interesting. And even their first movie, right? With the animals and such. So I'm curious this is the first time something's been adapted to that space and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm looking at the prices. They are a little bit all over the place. As low as maybe $104 a ticket. The premiere is going to be between $138 and $173. Either way, I mean, that's an expensive night out at the movies. I would go see many a revival in an art house or whatever, but I can't imagine paying that amount of money even for the spectacle of the Sphere. It does seem like a lot, right? I mean, I'm not off on that one.
It's probably my entire movie budget for a year, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So price be damned if comps are floating around, whatever. What movie would you like to see revived at the Sphere with AI enhancements and the whole nine?
Cats.
Just cats.
But only if it's the butthole cut.
The theatrical version of the play that was
Horrifying.
universally panned and has a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. That's the one.
Horrifying. But again, only if they digitally add buttholes on all the cats.
Oh my God, Sarah.
Okay, so
Wow.
and honestly, I was originally thinking like one of the Avengers movies. That would be pretty amazing. But then I was like, no, but that's like too obvious. Here's what I'd actually go to watch: The Shining. That's going to make frequent contributor
a horror film
Michael M.J. Lyle. Yeah.
Oh.
Because there's so many like big expansive shots. And then like think of the scene where the blood is like coming down the hallway. Think about it for Halloween. That could be cool as
That
hell.
would be covering the entire inner sphere.
Yeah.
And then getting lost in that, 5 dimensions in the labyrinth.
That got dark pretty quick. I was going to say I was thinking along the same lines though about Kubrick. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yes.
Oh, there you got the winner there, John.
Oh, because there's that part where the camera's rotating, he's walking around. Do you know what I mean? Like it
the
has
whole movie.
And when the pod doors
elements to
open,
it.
it's you're done in the sphere. You lose your mind.
Dave, don't go in the sphere, Dave.
I got two trends of thought here. One would be something like a Willy Wonka, like the original.
The original plays,
which would be so much fun with all, again, the visual palette and then the craziness that's happening. But also if you really wanted to go super dark, because this technology really it gets in your head. So I think the absolute worst film, the hardest film I've ever experienced in terms of having to watch, and that was Requiem for a Dream.
Oh my God.
The Aronofsky.
Man,
it was
talk
the
about
most
dark. Can I cleanse my brain of that and suggest like the Muppet movie just to
There you go.
change
Much better. Okay. Yes. All
we're
right. Thank God.
talking.
Yes. The Rainbow Connection has brought us back to reality. Thank you. Well, that's the week of news. More weeks to come up. Hey, Sarah and John, thanks so much for joining us on the Friday News Roundup.
Thanks, David.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, we've got some CityCast neighbor shout outs. This is what we gave you was one of the benefits of membership is that you get to call out one of your favorite things in Las Vegas. So this first one is from Brian B. He says, the Las Vegas Aces have an awesome team this year. Let's go. All right, Brian B. Tina H. loves the Writer's Block. Their book clubs are the best ever. I can attest to that. I'm in a couple of them. And Jeannie H., I know who that is. She's shouting out the Asian Community Development Council, which was started by Vita Lin and Yui Win. And they provide food, health, immigration, and voter registration assistance for all Nevadans. Thank you to all our CityCast neighbors. And if you want to be a member, we'll shout something out for you. That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer is Sonia Cho Swanson. Our producer is Layla Mohammed. Our newsletter editor is Rob Kacheries. And our hosts are Sarah Lohman and me, Dayvid Figler. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and All the Kimonos. We record the show on the traditional homelands of the Nuuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed the show, we encourage you to tell a friend. You can also rate the show, leave us a review, just takes a few minutes to do, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.
But if it makes you feel better, we're not sinking as much as Houston.
It always makes me feel better that someone's doing a little worse than
Someone's
us.
doing a little
it's
worse
that old
than us.
Houston threshold.
Mm-hmm.